Hello. Sound okay? Everyone here?
Yes. Yes.
Lovely to be talking again at the Sri Chinmoy Poetry Festival. It's one of my favourite events to take part in. I should say that Adarsha, who sang beautifully a moment ago, is also from Scotland, so we're flying the flag. In fact, he's also from Glasgow, where I was born, so we're flying the flag from Glasgow as well. I was blessed and fortunate enough to meet Sri Chinmoy in 1970. As a dear friend of mine used to say, that was back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, way back in ancient times. And I realised when Ranjana and I were speaking that I've actually been with Sri Chinmoy for 54 of those 60 years. That's a long time. And I'm immensely grateful for it. He's been my guide, my mentor, my guru, my friend. And for all those years I've been reading his poetry, and it's been such a total inspiration. In the early 80s I edited a little book, just 50 poems. A selection of 50 out of thousands of poems. So purely objective, subjective. I just chose ones that I liked. And I'm going to begin by reading one of those, which a couple of days ago I sent out to a number of friends. I texted them. It's because we were coming to New York and I wanted to give them something of Sri Chinmoy to inspire them while we were away. These people who've been meditating with us. And I wanted to leave them this particular poem, which is one of my favourites from those early days. Ever the same again, my lost truth rediscovered. Ever the same again, my forgotten self remembered. Ever the same again. Ever the same again, my lost goal regained. Ever the same again. And the words are so simple, so accessible. Sri Chinmoy's poetry is not difficult in the sense of being demanding intellectually. What it demands is that we open up and respond to it from the heart. I was just listening recently to an interview he gave about poetry. People were asking him questions. And someone said, how come I don't appreciate poetry? And effectively he said, well, you have to learn to listen with your heart and read with the heart. The mind is never going to get to where poetry is trying to take you, which is delight. And even when he was writing about, as was mentioned in one of the poems, the excruciating pangs that he experienced in his own spiritual journey, there was still at the heart of it a sense of fulfilled and fulfilling delight. So I wanted to just read a few of the poems initially from this little collection, long out of print. It's called Between Nothingness and Eternity. And there's a wee anecdote about the first poem, which is called The Absolute. And in those days, in Sri Chinmoy's early writing career, he wrote in very traditional forms. He liked rhyme, standard literary metre. He himself was very fond of a lot of the English romantic poets, for instance, and his own teacher, Sri Aurobindo, wrote in strictly formal sonnet verses. So this has that kind of quality. And a wee story about it, that two other Scottish writers, friends of mine, were discussing spiritual poetry. And they'd kind of decided that it couldn't be done in English. The English language was just inadequate for conveying spiritual truth, unlike Bengali or Italian, say. So one of them read this poem to the other, and he said by the end of it, they were both absolutely humbled. This was coming from such a spiritual height, and he said it filled the room with this consciousness. And he said thereafter they looked at Sri Chinmoy's poetry with a new reverence and humility. So it's called The Absolute. No mind, no form, I only exist. Now ceased all will and thought, the final end of nature's dance, I am it whom I have sought. A realm of bliss, bare, ultimate, beyond both knower and known. A rest immense I enjoy at last. I face the one alone. I have crossed the secret ways of life. I have become the goal. The truth, immutable, is revealed. I am the way, the God soul. My spirit aware of all the heights, I am mute in the core of the sun. I barter nothing with time and deeds. My cosmic play is done. Ranjana mentioned that a great many of Sri Chinmoy's English poems began as songs, often in Bengali, and he would make his own translations, which ended up being an entirely new poem often. This one's called I Sing Because You Sing. In Bengali it's Ami Gai Gan. I sing because you sing. I smile because you smile. Because you play on the flute, I have become your flute. You play in the depths of my heart. You are mine, I am yours. This is my sole identification. In one form you are my mother and father, eternal, and consciousness moon, consciousness sun, all pervading. The wave. The wave subsides and the wave rises. The flower withers and the flower blossoms. There is no end to human wants and human achievements. Nothing is permanent and nothing is fleeting. Then, for whom shall we cry? For what shall we cry? Whom shall we invoke with a new thought and new form? Everything eventually blossoms. Beyond speech and mind. Beyond speech and mind, into the river of ever-effulgent light, my heart dives. Today, thousands of doors, closed for millennia, are opened wide. Silence face, forgiveness smile. Life is but a day, therefore I try to finish all my aspiring and all my loving in the short span of one single day. Life is but eternity, therefore I sleep and dream, I sing and dance and sing. In the silence face, forgiveness smile of the birthless and deathless day. I was recently rereading a poem by George Herbert, the great English metaphysical poet, and it began, I saw eternity the other night, like a great ring of pure and endless light. And it occurred to me that is the kind of thing that Sri Chinmoy did all the time with his poetry. There's this exalted, transcendent vision, this eternity as this ring of endless light. But it begins, I saw eternity the other night. It's conversational, it's inviting you in, saying, this is an experience that you too can have. We all have that vast spiritual capacity inside us. So that reminded me in a strange, tangential way of this poem by Sri Chinmoy. nothing happened. Nothing really exciting happened when I fell down from heaven. I just fell down. Nothing really exciting happened when I climbed up to the skies. I just climbed up. Nothing really exciting happened when I starved with darkness. I just starved. Nothing really exciting happened when I dined with light. I just dined. Ranjana mentioned Rabindranath Tagore earlier, and Sri Chinmoy was very grateful for Tagore's work, very influenced by it. He reviewed Tagore as a poet and as a seeker. And he loved to quote a line by Tagore which said, "To the birds you gave songs, the birds gave you songs in return. You gave me only voice and asked, and I sing." And it's that more, I think, that Sri Chinmoy poured into all of his activities, every poem, every painting, every tiny bird drawing, everything he did contained all of his consciousness. So every single one of these poems has the capacity to open us up to that vastness inside. It's thrilling and humbling to be a part of. I read something recently suggesting that the reason Christianity and Buddhism were so successful was that Christ and Buddha were both great poets and expressed themselves so inspirationally and so beautifully and succinctly. So with that as a model, I hope that Sri Chinmoy's work will still be inspiring people in centuries to come. I knew another Scottish poet. Scottish poets are renowned for their spiritual capacities and their ability to discuss great metaphysical subjects. And this poet was writing about moving away from literary notions of poetry and trying to express what he was about. And the formula he came up with was a kind of poetic yoga, which I thought was a very, very nice, succinct description of what Sri Chinmoy was engaged in his whole life. The poetry and the spirituality were absolutely interlinked. They were, as he would have put it, both two sides of the same coin. Those, the poems I read from that week collection were early ones. Just a couple of ones that was just slightly later than that, where he moved into freer verse forms. To arrive at the core of everything, what you need is an ardent submissiveness to eternity's infinite source. There are two medicines to give you peace of mind. I am everything, and this world does not belong to me. Use one of the two. This very moment is the best the world can afford to give us. Let us avail ourselves of this golden moment. Inside the heart of the moment is eternity's silence life and infinity's smile. One of my absolute favourite little aphoristic poems by him. I think prior to meeting Sri Chinmoy, my biggest spiritual influence on me was probably Zen. So I'm drawn to writings of his which have that quality, that pared down spareness. You do not have to understand, just believe. You do not have to believe, just keep your eyes wide open. I wrote very movingly on peace. Peace is the beginning of love. Peace is the completion of truth. Peace is the return to the source. He also had a kind of wry sense of humour. When I think, I sink. When I choose, I lose. When I cry, I fly. All great men look wonderful from afar. All spiritual men look soulful from afar. All leaders, especially political leaders, look thoughtful from afar. Be careful. He could have been writing that right now. So, all of my own writing is in many ways in response to Sri Chinmoy. Not that he influenced me in terms of style, but he encouraged me to write and inspired me to find my own voice, my own truth. And for many years I wrote almost nothing but, I was writing prose, but I was also writing lots of little haiku poems. First warmth of spring, I feel as if I have been asleep. Suddenly spring, my heart and the river full to bursting. The puppy ferociously challenging a daffodil. Bright yellow tulip, a chalice filled to the brim with its own light. Just an autumn evening, why these tears? Just an autumn evening. The moon moves with us as we walk, drifts from tree to tree. Japanese landscapes in the damp patch on the ceiling. The snowman calmly awaiting the thaw. I think my poetic journey was in some ways opposite to Sri Chinmoy's. I came to formal, structured, rhyming poems fairly recently, and I've turned my hand to sonnets. This one's called Passing. Sometimes you hear a perfect sonnet line spoken in passing, the word on the street fall easily but as if by design into that good old pentameter beat. So on this late September afternoon, summer winding down, shading into fall, the day, the year, this life passing too soon, I almost hear the meaning of it all as a young mother calls out to her son, running daft in this scrap of city park. She calls, knowing this time will soon be done, but as if love might yet hold back the dark. Just play a while, and then we have to go. Just play a while, and then we have to go. And this one's called This. There's a line in this called the touchingness of things, and that's a translation of a Japanese notion, mono no awari, the transience, the fleetingness of life. Seamus Heaney called it the pathos of things. I think touchingness is better. It is the utter ordinariness of the miraculous, this here and now, this fullness in the heart of emptiness, sound of the rain falling at night, or how the last light lingers on an old stone wall, the touchingness of things, simplicity, to breathe Yes, just to be alive is all sheer blessedness or sweet mortality. The world's in meltdown and we seem hell-bent on self-destruct, the end of days, and yet, it comes unbidden, heaven sent, tells us, do not forget, do not regret. Remember it, this peace descending, sound of the rain, the last light lingering. And there's lots more wonderful poetry to come from Maria and Rachel. I had a sneak preview of what they're reading and what they're going to say. So you're in for a treat, but I wanted just to finish this by saying again, ever the same again, ever the same again, my lost truth rediscovered, ever the same again, ever the same again, my forgotten self remembered, ever the same again, ever the same again, my lost goal regained, ever the same again. Thank you.